Carter Hale stood on the observation deck, eyes locked on the auction pit below. The room smelled of metal and oil. Distant alarms echoed through the spaceport. Ships moored and unmanned drones hovered above. Human soldiers and alien buyers crowded the floor. Everything burned in neon and firelight. The auctioneer shouted in a strange tongue, his voice cutting through the chaos. He held up a wrist device. The next bid would change the war. Carter did not flinch. He had seen entire fleets die and planets crumble, but he had never seen an Amazon. She stood tall, her muscles coiled like steel springs. Her amber eyes scanned the crowd. Her body was scarred from old battles. She did not bow. She did not speak. She simply waited. A murmur ran through the audience. She was not like the others. She was feared, desired, and deadly. Every buyer knew she could end their life with a single strike. Carter's fingers brushed the edge of his coat. The purchase would cost more than money. It could cost his life. He placed the bid. The auctioneer's eyes widened. No human had ever bid for her. The crowd gasped. Leora, the Amazon, tilted her head, intrigued. Her gaze met Carter's. For the first time, there was recognition. She knew he was different. Sold. The room erupted. Carter signed the transfer papers. No one tried to stop him. Most buyers were too stunned or too fearful. Leora moved toward the transport ship without hesitation. She did not speak. She did not resist. But every step she took was careful, deliberate, controlled. The ship's engines flared. The hull shook. Carter felt the vibration in his bones. Leora stood in the cargo bay, arms crossed. Her eyes never left him. She studied him like a predator tests prey. Carter felt a pulse of unease. She was not a weapon to him. She was a force he could not contain. The ship lifted off. Below, the spaceport burned in chaos. Alien forces were already striking the perimeter. Explosions lit the city like lightning. Carter gripped the railing, heart hammering. He had made a dangerous choice. The human military would not forgive it. He did not care. Leora moved closer. Her steps were silent. She stopped 2 meters away. The lights reflected in her amber eyes. She tilted her head. Then, without warning, the ship jolted violently. Red warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed in every corridor. Carter ran to the control panel. Systems were offline. The ship drifted. Sensors showed the trajectory was off course. He shouted orders to the crew. Nothing responded. Leora placed a hand on the console. Her fingers glowed briefly. Systems flickered. Then, control transferred. The ship obeyed her. Carter froze. His mouth went dry. He realized something that chilled him to the bone. She had accepted his purchase. She had allowed him to save face. But she had her own will. She was not just a warrior. She was the captain now. He turned to face her. She said nothing. Her expression was unreadable. Carter felt a spark of fear and awe. He had bought a weapon, but the weapon would not obey him blindly. And that realization shook him harder than any battle he had ever fought. The stars stretched outside the viewport. The human convoy blinked in the distance. But Carter knew the real war had just begun. Leora's eyes met his again. Something passed between them. A silent warning, a promise, and a challenge. The ship lurched again. Carter gripped the rail. The future of humanity was now in the hands of a warrior who did not belong to anyone. The war was no longer just about humans and aliens. It was about survival, trust, and power. And Carter knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The ship shuddered as it left orbit. Carter tightened his grip on the railing. Outside, stars streaked past. Alarms blared intermittently. Leora stood near the console, calm, her amber eyes tracking every system readout. She did not speak. Carter did not know if she was assessing him or the ship. He could feel her presence, heavy and demanding. Suddenly, a warning flashed on the main screen. Small craft appeared from the dark. Alien fighters, fast, deadly, and closing in. Carter shouted at the crew. The soldiers scrambled, checking weapons and shields. The ship shuddered under the first impact. Sparks flew across the control room. A panel ignited. Smoke filled the air. Leora moved instantly. She grabbed a rail and leaped onto the damaged console. Sparks arced around her, but she ignored them. Fingers flying over the controls, she rerouted power, shut down the damaged systems, and pushed the engines to full throttle. The ship twisted, spinning to dodge missiles. Carter's jaw tightened. He had never seen anything like it. One fighter broke through the shields. Carter fired a pulse cannon, but it missed. Leora turned, almost casually, and pressed a button on a control panel. A hidden turret emerged from the hull. It fired, striking the fighter and tearing it apart. The explosion shook the ship again. Carter stared. His heart pounded. He realized she was not just a warrior. She was a strategist. The crew looked to him. Fear and doubt showed in their eyes. Carter cleared his throat. He barked orders, but it felt different. He could not predict what Leora would do next. She ignored him, following her own plan. Every movement was precise, every decision lethal. The ship jolted. Another strike. Carter was thrown against the wall. Pain shot through his ribs. He forced himself up, coughing. Leora's eyes met his. There was no malice, only focus. She extended a hand, helping him steady himself. Carter hesitated, then took it. Strength radiated from her grip. He realized he could not do this alone. The alien fighters swarmed again. Leora's strategies were fast and unpredictable. She used the ship's full capabilities. Shields flickered, engines roared, weapons fired. Carter joined her on the console, issuing commands to the crew, but he was learning from her, following her lead more than his own instincts. The battle intensified. Explosions ripped through the cargo hold. Alarms screamed. A human soldier cried out as debris fell. Carter grabbed him, pulling him to safety. Leora covered them, firing automated weapons to keep enemies at bay. Carter noticed something remarkable. She was not cold. She calculated risk, but she valued human life. Her skill was terrifying and protective at the same time. Then the worst happened. Sensors screamed an alert. A massive alien ship emerged from a nebula. It was bigger than anything they had seen. Shields would not hold. Weapons could not penetrate it. Carter's stomach sank. He looked at Leora. She did not flinch. She tapped a few controls. The ship hummed with power, preparing a maneuver that no human had ever attempted. Carter clenched his fists. The crew looked to him. Their fear mirrored his own. He realized he was not in charge. Not really. Leora had taken control. Yet he trusted her instinct more than his own. He nodded once, silently, and readied for what was coming. The alien ship fired. Light tore across the void. Carter gritted his teeth. Leora's eyes glowed faintly as she activated a countermeasure. The ship shivered, twisted, and narrowly avoided destruction. Sparks rained down the corridors. The crew screamed. Carter felt the taste of fear on his tongue, but also adrenaline. He had never felt so alive. Leora turned to him, lips moving as if to speak. Carter leaned closer. She said nothing, but her gaze told him everything. Survival would come at a cost. Trust would be tested, and the next attack would be worse than anything they had faced so far. The alien fleet had not seen their full power yet. Carter knew one thing for certain. The war had truly begun, and he and Leora were the spark that could ignite humanity's fight. But at what price? The ship lurched again, and something massive hit the hull. Carter was thrown to the floor. Leora's eyes were on the viewport, scanning, calculating. He realized they were not just escaping. They were heading straight into the heart of enemy territory. The ship shuddered as it entered the alien fleet. Red and blue lights streaked past the viewport. Explosions flared in the distance. Carter felt his stomach tighten. Every pilot he had trained would be dead by now. Every tactic he knew seemed useless. Leora's hands moved over the console with precision. Every button, every lever had a purpose. Carter followed her gaze, trying to anticipate her next move. Alien ships tore through the void, engines screaming. They targeted the human convoy. Carter barked orders, but the crew hesitated. Fear had frozen them. Leora leaned in, pressing commands faster than any human could. The ship twisted and spun, dodging attacks. Missiles streaked past, shattering the emptiness around them. Sparks rained inside the control room. Carter ducked, feeling the heat of a panel that had ignited. A fighter broke through. Carter grabbed a rifle and fired. He hit the engine bay. The craft shuddered. Leora took the opening. She activated the hidden weapons. Laser turrets emerged. They tore through the fighter in seconds. The crew cheered, but Carter did not smile. The alien fleet was larger than they had imagined. Victory was still far away. Carter's comm unit crackled. A voice shouted in panic. One of the convoy ships was under boarding. Carter's stomach sank. The aliens had sent elite warriors. He could feel the dread in the pit of his stomach. Leora turned to him, her amber eyes glowing. She did not speak. Her presence demanded action. Carter swallowed and nodded. The boarding party hit the hull. Explosions ripped through the corridor. Metal twisted under pressure. Carter and Leora ran toward the breach. Soldiers fell. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Leora moved with fluid precision, knocking attackers aside. Carter fired from cover, pulling down anyone who threatened them. The humans fought, but it was Leora who turned the tide. Every strike she made was calculated, every move lethal. They reached the command deck of the boarding ship. Carter's heart pounded. Alien officers were setting controls to destroy the convoy. Leora pressed herself against a console, her fingers flying. Carter fired at the enemies covering her. A massive explosion rocked the ship. Carter hit the floor, ears ringing. He glanced up. Leora was still standing. The alien officer screamed as she grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. Carter helped the crew secure the ship. The boarding party was defeated. He turned to Leora, trying to find words. But she looked at him, unreadable. There was no praise, no thanks, only a challenge. Carter realized something he had feared. She did not fight for him. She fought for her own sense of purpose. He could trust her, but he could not command her. Sensors flashed another warning. The alien fleet had a massive ship closing in. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The hull glowed with energy. Shields would not hold. Weapons would barely scratch it. Carter's pulse raced. Leora activated a sequence he did not recognize. Energy pulsed through the ship. It twisted in space, slipping between enemy fire. Carter held onto the console, barely keeping his balance. The massive ship fired a beam. The human ship shuddered violently. Panels fell. Sparks flew. Carter fell to the floor. He looked up at Leora. She did not flinch. Her amber eyes met his. In that look, he saw both warning and confidence. He realized that they had only survived because of her decisions. And now, the fleet's command ship was aware of them. They would come for them next. Carter's comm crackled again. A voice whispered, trembling. The alien fleet had sent a message. It was simple, but chilling. They knew the humans had Leora. They would stop at nothing to take her. Carter looked at her. She tilted her head. Then she pressed a control that sent their ship spinning out of the alien fleet's range. Carter realized the truth, sharp and cold. They had survived, but the war had only just escalated. The aliens would come back stronger, and they would come for Leora specifically. Carter's hand hovered over his rifle. His jaw tightened. Survival was only the first step. The real fight was about to begin. The human ship broke free of the alien fleet. Carter leaned against the railing, his chest heaving. Sparks fell from damaged panels. Smoke filled the corridors. The crew was shaken but alive. Carter wiped sweat from his brow. Every muscle ached. Leora stood nearby, scanning the ship. She said nothing, but her presence was heavy and alert. They approached Earth's outer colony. The planet was a ruin. Cities burned, towers collapsed, and alien forces patrolled the skies. Civilians ran in fear. Carter clenched his fists. He felt helpless. The war had reached home. The humans were weak, disorganized, and terrified. Leora's eyes took in every detail, every obstacle. She moved like a predator, ready to strike. Carter assembled the remaining soldiers. They needed a plan. Leora joined silently, standing beside him. Her presence made the humans uneasy. She did not speak to give orders, but everyone followed her lead. Carter felt a mix of relief and tension. He realized he could not protect them without her. She taught them quickly, showing new tactics, alien strategies adapted to human limits. The aliens struck again. Chemical weapons released in the streets. People fell. Carter and the soldiers rushed forward, carrying civilians to cover. Leora moved with them, scanning for threats. Her strength allowed her to carry injured humans with ease. She struck down attackers with precise blows. Her amber eyes glowed as she calculated the next move. Carter kept firing his rifle, feeling his fear and anger spike with every shot. Explosions rocked the colony. Buildings fell. Carter's comm unit crackled. A survivor shouted for help. Carter ran, dodging falling debris. Leora followed, clearing a path. Civilians screamed around them. Every second was life or death. Carter realized he had never felt so vulnerable and alive. Humans were fragile, but they had courage. He understood why Leora had chosen to fight with them. The enemy unleashed a massive drone swarm. Carter yelled at his soldiers to retreat, but Leora did not hesitate. She leaped onto a fallen tower, using it as a vantage point. Her movements were swift and precise. The drones fell under her assault one by one. Carter watched in awe. He had fought many battles, but nothing like this. Leora's skill inspired humans to follow, to fight with courage they did not know they had. Carter felt the weight of command and responsibility. Every decision could cost lives. Leora never hesitated, never faltered. He realized he could not protect humans with his old methods. He had to trust her, to let her guide them. His pride struggled against reality, but he accepted it. The fight dragged on. The aliens unleashed a new weapon, tearing through the streets. Carter dove behind cover. Leora pushed forward, smashing drones, tearing through alien soldiers. She moved faster than anyone, a blur of strength and strategy. Carter felt fear, admiration, and anger all at once. Then a massive shockwave hit. Carter was thrown across the street. Dust and rubble filled the air. Leora shielded a group of civilians, taking the brunt of the blast. Carter crawled toward her. Her amber eyes met his. Pain and exhaustion showed on her face, but also determination. Carter realized the full truth. She was not just a weapon. She was a protector, a symbol of hope, and the humans needed her more than he did. A massive alien dreadnought appeared in orbit above the colony. Its shadow fell over the city like a dark cloud. The ground trembled beneath them. Carter looked at Leora. She touched his shoulder lightly, a gesture of warning. He understood immediately. The war was far from over. They had won this battle, but the next strike could destroy everything. Carter clenched his fists. He would fight. He would survive. But the aliens had just shown the next level of their power. Leora's amber eyes met his once more. He knew they were about to face a threat that would test every ounce of courage, strategy, and trust they had. And this time, failure could mean the end of humanity itself. The alien dreadnought loomed above the colony. Its engines glowed red. Shadows fell across the streets. Carter pressed himself against a wall, his rifle ready. Leora stood beside him, muscles tense, eyes scanning. Civilians huddled behind rubble. Every second was a threat. Every sound could mean death. Carter shouted orders to the remaining soldiers. They moved with urgency, but fear was heavy. Leora took the lead, sprinting across the street. She smashed through a drone patrol, tearing them apart with her strength and precision. Carter followed, shooting anything that moved. He realized humans were strong in courage, weak in tactics. Leora made them efficient, dangerous, and alive. The dreadnought fired. Light tore across the sky, flattening buildings. Carter dove behind debris. Leora shielded a family with her body, taking the impact. Sparks flew from her armor. Carter crawled to her side. She looked at him, eyes filled with pain and determination. They could not stop now. They reached the command center of the colony. Carter activated the defenses. Leora joined him, scanning the massive ship above. Its weak points were few, hidden beneath layers of armor. Carter felt desperation. Every moment wasted meant more lives lost. Leora tapped a few controls, rerouting energy to weapons and shields. The humans prepared for a strike. Carter and Leora led the attack. Soldiers fired missiles, lasers, anything that could harm the dreadnought. Leora moved through the chaos, pulling soldiers from danger, throwing aliens aside, directing attacks. She became the symbol of the fight, a force humans followed without hesitation. The dreadnought responded. It sent a swarm of fighter drones, faster and deadlier than before. Carter ran, dodging lasers. Leora leaped, smashing through them with brute force. Her amber eyes glowed. Every strike was calculated. Every movement inspired the humans around her. Carter realized the humans would never survive without her. The dreadnought's main weapon charged. Carter shouted at everyone to take cover. The ground shook violently. Leora grabbed his arm. Together they activated a hidden energy channel from the colony's core. The weapon fired. Light tore through the city. Buildings collapsed. Dust and smoke filled the air. Carter fell, coughing. He looked up. Leora was standing, shielded by a collapsing wall. Her eyes met his. She had risked everything. They had done it. The dreadnought's weapon misfired, crippling the ship. Drones fell from the sky. The alien ship wavered. Carter realized they could win. Humans cheered, crying and shouting. He wanted to believe it was over, but he knew the war was far from finished. Suddenly, a transmission broke through the comm. The alien fleet's voice was clear, cold, and menacing. They knew Leora was with the humans. They would stop at nothing to reclaim her. Carter's stomach sank. He looked at her. Her amber eyes narrowed. She did not smile. She did not speak. But Carter understood. The fight was only the beginning. Carter gritted his teeth. He had fought many battles. He had survived countless attacks. But he realized the war had changed him. Leora had changed him. He felt respect, fear, and trust all at once. Humans were strong in heart, but with her, they could be unstoppable. Leora turned toward the horizon. Carter followed her gaze. The sky was dark, filled with enemy ships retreating but watching. He knew they would return. The humans had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Carter clenched his fists. He was ready. Leora stood beside him, fierce and unyielding. Together they would face whatever came next. But both knew one truth. The next fight would test everything they had learned and everything they were willing to risk.